Before we begin, take a second right now and hit that subscribe button. If you appreciate stories about hidden treasures, rare coins, and the kind of history you can actually hold in your hand, you're going to want to stay with me all the way to the end of this video. Now imagine this. You're going through an old drawer, maybe one you haven't opened in years. It's filled with small things you once thought had no real value. Buttons, keys, a few foreign coins. You almost toss them aside. But then, something catches your eye. A coin, slightly worn, different, quietly sitting there, waiting to be noticed. That's how discoveries begin. Not with a bang, but with a second glance. Today, we're talking about a coin that many people have seen, some have ignored, and a few have quietly held on to without ever realizing what it might represent. The South Africa 50 cents coin from 1993 is not just currency. It's a piece of history, a symbol of transition, and for the right collector, a potential doorway to something far more valuable than its face suggests. Let's go back to 1993 for a moment. It was not just another year. It was a turning point, a time when South Africa stood on the edge of enormous political and social change. The old system was ending, and a new chapter was about to begin. Coins minted during such times often carry more than monetary worth. They carry stories, tension, hope, and identity. The 50 cents coin from that year reflects that moment. Its design, its metal composition, even its circulation pattern all connect to a country redefining itself. For collectors, coins like this are not just objects. They are time capsules. Now here's where it gets interesting. At first glance, this coin may seem ordinary. Many were produced. Many were used in everyday transactions. But not all coins are created equal. Some carry small variations, slight differences in minting, tiny details that most people would never notice. And those small differences can change everything. Collectors, especially experienced ones, don't just look at a coin. They study it. They examine the edges, the lettering, the alignment, the finish. A minor variation can turn a common coin into something rare. And rarity is where value begins to climb. Think about the thrill of that moment. Holding a coin you once thought was worth almost nothing, only to realize it might be something special. That feeling is what drives collectors. It's not just about money. It's about discovery. Now let's talk about condition. Condition is everything in the world of coins. A coin that has been heavily used, scratched, or worn down will naturally be less valuable. But if you happen to have one that has been preserved well, maybe stored away, maybe barely circulated, its value can increase significantly. There's a grading scale that serious collectors use. It ranges from heavily worn to nearly perfect condition. The closer a coin is to its original state, the more desirable it becomes. And coins from significant historical years, like 1993, gain even more attention when they are found in high-grade condition. But here's something many people don't realize. Sometimes, it's not just about condition or age. It's about uniqueness. There are coins that slipped through the minting process with errors. These errors might be slight misprints, off-center designs, or variations in metal composition. These are the coins that collectors actively hunt for. And yes, even a coin like the South Africa 50 cents 1993 can exist in such rare forms. Now imagine this scenario. You're sitting at home. You remember you have a small collection of coins. Maybe they were given to you years ago. Maybe you picked them up during travels. You take them out, one by one, and then you see it. The 1993 50 cents coin. You almost dismiss it. But then you remember something you heard. Something about certain coins being worth more than they appear. So you look closer. You check the details, the edges, the shine, the alignment. And suddenly, that ordinary coin doesn't feel so ordinary anymore. This is where curiosity turns into excitement. For many men in their later years, collecting coins is more than a hobby. It's a connection to the past. It's a way to hold history, to preserve it, and sometimes to pass it down. There's something deeply satisfying about understanding the story behind an object that others overlook. And coins like this one carry stories that go beyond borders. They speak of economies, transitions, and the everyday lives of people who once used them. Now, let's be honest. Not every 1993 50 cents coin is going to change your life. Most will remain modest in value. But that's not the point. The point is that some might. And unless you take the time to look, to learn, and to explore, you'll never know what you have. That's why collectors always say the same thing. Never ignore a coin just because it looks common. Because sometimes, the most valuable things hide in plain sight. There are collectors out there right now searching for specific versions of coins like this. They attend auctions. They study catalogs. They spend years building their collections. And when they find a coin that completes a set or fills a gap, they are willing to pay far more than you might expect. And that brings us to the part everyone waits for. Value. The value of a coin like the South Africa 50 cents 1993 depends on several factors. Condition, rarity, demand, and sometimes pure luck. A standard circulated coin might only be worth a small amount, but a rare variation, in exceptional condition, can reach levels that surprise even experienced collectors. And here's the part that might make you look at your coins a little differently tonight. There are stories, real stories, of coins once considered ordinary being valued at astonishing figures after closer inspection and proper authentication. So what about this coin? What if the one sitting in your drawer or tucked away in an old box turned out to be one of those rare pieces? What if it had the right combination of condition, rarity, and historical significance? What if it wasn't just a coin? What if it was a hidden asset? Because in the right market, under the right circumstances, with the right buyer, a coin like this has been talked about in terms that go far beyond pocket change. And yes, there are collectors who would place a value as high as $25 million on a truly rare and exceptional example tied to this era and type. Think about that for a moment. A coin you could hold between your fingers. A coin that might have passed through countless hands. A coin that almost went unnoticed. Subscribe now and stay with me till the very end, because what you're about to hear might completely change the way you look at old coins forever. Picture this for a moment. A quiet drawer in an old house. A small leather pouch, forgotten for decades. Inside it, a single coin. Worn, heavy, cold to the touch. Most people would pass it off as spare change. But for the man who understands history, power, and legacy, this coin tells a story far bigger than its size. Today, we're talking about the South African 1963 50 cents coin and why serious collectors, seasoned investors, and history-minded men pay very close attention when this piece appears. 1963 was not just another year. It was a turning point. South Africa was standing at the edge of global pressure, political tension, and economic transformation. Currency during this time wasn't just money. It was a statement. Every coin carried authority, identity, and national intent. The 50 cents coin minted in 1963 came from this exact moment in history, when metals mattered, craftsmanship mattered, and nothing was produced without purpose. Now let's talk about presence. This is not a flashy coin. It doesn't scream for attention, and that's exactly why it commands respect. The men who appreciate this coin are the same men who understand that real power doesn't shout. It sits quietly and lets the world come to it. The weight of the coin, the strike, the detail, all speak of an era when quality was non-negotiable. When you hold it, you don't just feel metal. You feel intention. This coin circulated at a time when South Africa was still deeply connected to its older monetary traditions. Decimal currency was still fresh, and coins like the 50 cents were symbols of modernization mixed with old-world discipline. It represents a bridge between tradition and transition. For collectors, that alone is gold. For investors, it's even better. Many people make the mistake of thinking rarity is only about how many coins were made. That's amateur thinking. True rarity is about survival. How many remained untouched? How many escaped melting, damage, or careless handling? How many still carry sharp detail, natural aging, and authentic character? The 1963 50 cents coin answers these questions in a way that makes experienced collectors lean forward and listen carefully. Men over 55 understand this instinctively. You've seen markets rise and fall. You've seen trends come and go. You know that tangible assets with history outlast hype. This coin has lived through economic shifts, political storms, and generational change. It didn't disappear. It endured. And endurance is value. Another thing that separates this coin from ordinary pieces is its emotional gravity. This is not just South African history. It's global history. It reflects a time when the world was divided, alliances were tested, and nations defined themselves through symbols, including their currency. Owning this coin is like owning a page torn from a very serious history book, one that isn't taught properly anymore. Collectors who specialize in mid-20th century coins understand something most people don't. Coins from this era are increasingly hard to source in high-grade condition because they were actually used. They bought food. They paid wages. They passed through thousands of hands. Survival without damage is not luck. It's destiny. There is also a psychological factor here that cannot be ignored. Coins like this attract a specific type of man. A man who values patience. A man who understands that real worth reveals itself over time. This is not a quick flip. This is a legacy hold. Something you pass down, not cash out casually. When this coin appears in private collections, it rarely stays available for long. Not because it's loud or trendy, but because the right people recognize it instantly. They don't ask many questions. They already know. And once it's gone, it may not surface again for years, sometimes decades. Another reason this coin commands such attention is because it sits at the crossroads of multiple collecting worlds. It appeals to South African specialists, Commonwealth collectors, Silver Era investors, and historians alike. That overlap creates quiet competition. And quiet competition is where serious money moves. Now think about this. How many objects from 1963 can you still hold in your hand today, unchanged, authentic, and universally recognized? Not many. This coin has outlived industries, ideologies, and even currencies. That alone places it in a different category. Men who collect coins like this aren't chasing profit alone. They're preserving proof. Proof that craftsmanship mattered. Proof that history leaves fingerprints. Proof that not everything of value needs electricity, software, or permission to exist. And here's the part most people never talk about. Coins like this don't just gain financial value. They gain narrative value. Stories attach themselves to them. Ownership becomes part of the coin's journey. That's why advanced collectors document provenance, condition, and even previous owners when possible. Because stories increase gravity. And gravity attracts serious interest that if you're still watching, you already understand